The long wait for Rick and Morty Season 4 finally ends later this year. But since we've still got a while to wait, now seems like the perfect time to go over all the various dimensions we've seen in the show and how important they are. First, let's lay some ground rules. If it's something Rick invented, say an imaginary world for Beth, or a tiny universe to power his battery, it doesn't count. Finally, I'm looking at the TV show specifically. There are more dimensions shown in the comics, but we're not going to take a look at them. Some are more important than others, with many being minor one-offs from episodes like Interdimensional Cable. What's up guys, I'm Dave Klein, and this is the dimension our main Rick and Morty protagonists hail from. Earth on dimension C-137 was completely ruined near the end of the first season when Morty asked Rick to make a love potion for him, and the potion spread through the flue.
I love Morty, and I hope Morty loves me. I'd like to wrap my arms around him and feel him inside me.
Resulting in Rick making an antidote that instead turned just about every human into a Cronenberg monster. Rick finds an alternate dimension where an alternate version of himself has solved the problem, but also killed both Rick and Morty through a fluke accident. The Rick and Morty we've been following on the show take their place, leaving dimension C-137 and all of its inhabitants in the dust. Not all is bad, however, as the Smith family finally finds happiness with the absence of Rick and Morty. Speaking of Cronenbergs, we know there exists an opposite dimension where every inhabitant of the world was originally a Cronenberg monster, including Rick and Morty, and they accidentally turned everyone in. He traveled to dimension C-137 after it's Cronenberged out to be with other Cronenberg monsters like them. This particular universe doesn't have a name, so for the time being, I'm going to refer to it as Replacement Universe number 1. Outside of Dimension C-137, this is the most important dimension of Rick and Morty. That is, discounting the events of Replacement Universe 2, which is in this dimension, with Rick and Morty traveling to it after turning everyone in C-137 into Cronenberg monsters. In this dimension, also are part of this particular dimension. Outside of the fact that in this dimension, Rick didn't turn everyone into monsters, and the original Rick of this dimension killed himself along with Morty in an accident, everything else is apparently identical to the original dimension of C-137. This is where things get a little weird. Well, weird for the sake of the continuity in this particular video. In Morty's Mind Blower, where he overhears that squirrels control the world. Rick and Morty are forced to flee to a new replacement dimension due to this. All of this brings into question when exactly they did that. Reference what happened, with the Rick and Morty burying the replacement Dimension 1 versions of themselves in the backyard. But really, it only matters for Summer's character growth with Rick if all of this is canon and not just a general joke that has no bearing whatsoever on the story.
Our ass, Morty! We have to pack up and move to a new reality, Morty! You know, I said we can only do that a couple of times. We're over here.
On the complete opposite end from Cronenberg monsters, enslave the human race. In the end, thanks to Rick poisoning Morty, they decide to leave and colonize their own world. We briefly see this dimension in the Rick and Morty promo of the right bathroom, where all of the bathrooms are fire hydrants. From the same promo, after Summer refuses to go to the bathroom on a fire hydrant, Rick brings them to a dimension where the toilets are intelligent beings, with humans acting as toilets. Finally, following the same promo further, we get a glimpse into what would seem to be a hell dimension. The colorful dimension 35C was the very first one introduced to viewers during the pilot episode of Rick and Morty. It's notable for its mega trees that contain seeds Rick claims to need for science.
When we get to customs, I'm gonna need you to take these seeds into the bathroom, and I'm gonna need you to put them way up inside your butthole, Morty.
In my butt?
Put them way up inside there, as far as they can fit.
Oh, jeez, Rick!
The intro to Me Seeks and Destroys sees an alternate dimension with, as Rick explains,
they're clones from an alternate reality possessed by demonic alien spirits from another dimension's future. Do you need a mnemonic device or something? Just hit the button already!
Dimension J19 Zeta 7 is one of the more notable dimensions as it happens to be where Doofus Rick hails from. Notably, while the other Ricks make fun of Doofus Rick by claiming inhabitants of Dimension J19 Zeta 7 eat their own feces, Justin Roiland noted in the DVD commentary this wasn't actually true. Garage transporting him and a Smith house currently full of partygoers to another dimension filled with testicle monsters. It's often thought that the fourth dimension is time, if the first three are height, length, and width. The of Season 2's Rickle in Time would be from the fourth dimension. After performing Get Swifty from the Cromulans,
Oh yeah, you gotta get swifty. You gotta get swifty in here.
Earth is transported to perform on the reality show Planet Music. That said, it's not entirely clear if this is another part of the universe or a separate dimension, so I'm including it just in case. In The Ricks Must Be Crazy, Rick takes Summer and Beth to a version of Earth that has the Ball Fondlers movie franchise playing, unlike real Earth. Unfortunately, it also includes
giant telepathic spiders, 11 9/11s, and the best ice cream in the multiverse!
Well, I mean, until Rick's ship, on behalf of Summer, brokers a peace treaty between the giant spiders and the government.
Ew, what the hell? Jesus, there's flies in my ice cream!
Presidential decree. All ice cream is now for all beings, no matter how many legs.
What the f did you do, Summer?
A major dimension we see introduced in Season 3 is where Morty and especially Summer use the new dimension as a way to deal with their parents getting divorced. At the end of the Ricklantis mix-up, we briefly see Rick and Morty of C-137 who've returned from a dimension where Atlantis exists. Unfortunately, nothing is shown, but I hear those mermaids are something else. One of the many dimensions introduced in Rick's D-Minutes, C500A is a dimension in which Jerry and Beth never married one another, resulting in Jerry becoming a famous actor and Beth becoming a renowned surgeon. The two are, however, lonely and miserable. In Butt World, everything relates to butts, poop, and farts. It's briefly seen in multiple episodes. And let's not forget about Greasy Grandma World, the absolute best place for greasy grit. Also from the episode Closer Encounters of the Rick Kind, we find a series of worlds similar to our own, except for with pizza, furniture, phones, and people switching places. In the pizza universe, pizza and people are switched, with pizza eating people akin to, well, a pizza. The next we see is Phone Universe, where pizza are now chairs, phones are people, and chairs are food. I'm pretty sure we also briefly see this one in Rick's D-Minutes with the MJ phone. Finally, we land on Furniture Universe. Here, chairs are the intelligent life form, and chairs are people, with pizza acting as phones, phones similar to pizza, and people used as furniture. Rick and Morty also go to a fancy phone restaurant, which is pretty fantastic. The Blender Dimension is fittingly named as it's a dimension that's simply that. It was seen in the Tales from the Citadel episode. The Corn Universe is one scene in Rick's D-Minutes where everybody's anthropomorphized corn. While flipping through channels on Rick's D-Minutes, Rick passes through this gem of Pantless Universe.
Smlangela? Smlana?
Another quickie from Rick's D-Minutes is Reverse Height Dimension. We see this shown through Game of Thrones where Tyrion is tall, but everyone else is short. Another Rick's D-Minutes dimension we see is Hamster and Butt World, which the Smith family end up going on vacation to. The beginning of Season 3's Morty Mindblower is Mortis, who will give you the power to know everything by looking into his eyes. The universe is short-lived, but incredibly cool. We also get a brief glimpse of Interdimensional Cable this episode, this time showcasing House Hunters, where humans hunt houses who are alive in this dimension. There are However, the main one worth mentioning is a Morty who you know we'll end up seeing in future episodes of Rick and Morty. Evil Morty. While it's unclear what dimension he hails from, Evil Morty has been a vital component to the Citadel of Rick episodes, and I can't wait to find out more about him. And has been in SNL for 25 seasons, and one of the stars is a piece of toast. A universe where trunk people exist. Michael Vincent's. A universe where people have huge heads, but tiny and small faces. In the episode Closer Encounters of the Rick Kind, as Rick and Morty are escaping from the Council of Ricks, a portal opens up with 3 items spilling out. A pen, a notepad, and a cup with a question mark on it. Portal directly linking the two shows together and making Gravity Falls a part of the Rick and Morty multiverse. That wraps up all the various dimensions I could find. As a note, there are possibilities I left out, which also there's a lot to Interdimensional Cable. But what dimensions have been your favorites so far, and do you hope to see any of them return in the following seasons? Let us know in the comments below, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.